Welcome to Sisters in Crime's Murder Monday, where authors talk about their crime craft. My name is Jacq. I'm a copywriter, occasional broadcaster, podcaster, and member of Sisters in Crime Australia, where we've been celebrating women's crime writing since 1991. My guest for this month's Murder Monday is the best-selling author, Sarah Barrie, from New South Wales Central Coast. Hello, Sarah.
Hi Jack, how you going?
Good. Now, while Sarah has gained degrees in arts and science and education, she's also worked as a teacher, a vet nurse, a horse trainer, a magazine editor before deciding to write novels. I hope you're lucky because she cut her teeth on romance, but then threw her lot in with crime and thrillers. Four of the hard-hitting crime novels feature one of my favorite protagonists, Lexi Winter, a vigilante who ends up being a cop. And the first, Unforgiven, was given a highly commended in Sisters in Crime's 2022 David Awards. When she's not writing, you'll find Sarah ferrying teens to sports, chasing livestock, and appreciating a good whiskey. Sarah, could you give us an elevator pitch for Endgame, our last adventure with Lexi?
Yeah, last one. So Endgame pretty much is as it sounds. It's the final showdown between Lexi and her nemesis Damon Vaughn, the child predator who's been out to get her since the end of book one. Look, Vaughn's a malignant narcissist and he cannot stand the idea that Lexi beat him in the eyes of the world. So he's been stewing away in the background of the last few books trying to come up with some sort of revenge. And here he is. So he proposes a game to Lexi, which of course she accepts because she'll do anything to stop this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And she's very, very quickly caught up in like this cat and mouse style race against the clock to capture him before the night of the 31st when he said, that's game over. So, of course, it's not quite that simple because it's Lexi and there's always something else going on. And her teenage house guest, Kate, has gotten in with a bit of a rough crowd, and there's some drugs involved and some deaths, and they start blaming it on a local urban legend. And so Lexi, of course, has to investigate to keep Kate safe. So the stakes are the highest they've ever been for Lexi. I've thrown absolutely everything I can at her in this novel because, and I really wanted the series to go out with a bang and to be everything that readers really wanted and expected from a Lexi Winter book. So
I
that's
think
the
I think
plan.
you achieved absolutely every single one of
Thank you.
those. On to the questions. Alrighty, are you
Okay,
ready?
totally.
How many drafts do you do before handing it in?
There's no set number.
Yeah.
And some of my book, I might do 20 drafts of the first 20 chapters and, five of, so I don't really write from beginning to end
Hmm.
and then just go over it and over it and over it as a full manuscript because some of the book seems to flow really easily and works together really well, and other parts I have terrible trouble with. So it would be at least a second draft before it goes to my critique partners, and then they'll send it back and say, this is rubbish, fix this. And then I'll go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And then I've run out of time by then because I'm always chasing deadlines. So, yeah, probably maybe three if we want to
Maybe three.
generalize.
Three's a good number. Three's a good
Mm.
number. How much research do you do before writing?
So much.
Yeah.
I've got a little trick now because research, I really like research. It's very easy to go down rabbit holes and find all these fabulous things you want to put in your book. And of course, you
Hmm.
can't ever put it all in the book. But I spent so long doing it. So now I have this fabulous team of people around me, police and forensics people, and everyone that I've been able to con into helping me. Thank you, everybody. I love you very much. And it just saves me so much time because I
Yeah.
can give them a call or send an email and say, tell me how this works. And then I don't spend 6 hours, looking for one answer and then finding 20 more that I'm never ever going to use, but they're so interesting. And then I'm,
Yeah.
behind on the book again. So a little bit, yes, lots of research, but also lots of help.
Fantastic. What did you discover about your writing that you weren't quite prepared for?
Oh, I think with crime, I mean, romance is easy in lots of ways. No, don't get me
So
take
I'm
that the
really
wrong
thinking
way.
romance is so
But I
hard.
mean, well, I just think that with romance, there's not so many. Focus on the emotions and
Yeah.
I could focus on the complications of relationships. And that was a lot easier for me than having to dig into some of what's involved in crime and
Hmm.
reading a lot of the true stories and the true crime and just knowing how horrible it is. And
Yeah.
when you want to write. And that's what I mean by romance is easier because you don't have the victims, and it's just it can be so heartbreaking to
Mm,
read some of these things that you have to read when you're looking into it and you want to make it realistic. And especially with Lexi, because there's some touchy subjects in there, I wanted to get it right. So I did speak to people. I did do lots of research. I
wow.
had some amazing feedback back from people, which is really good. But I just found, some of that content to just really immerse yourself in it. It's like get out, and take a break and take a walk
Yeah.
and stuff. So many times. Yeah.
Was it hard to understand the complexities of justice versus the legality? Because I know we all have a
Yeah.
good sense of right and wrong, but the law's not necessarily black and white.
No. Well, I mean, I don't think the law is very black and white in lots of circumstances, especially when you around justice for victims,
Mm,
because I don't know. I don't want to say our justice system is soft, but sometimes it looks that way, especially if you
yeah,
don't know the full story, or especially if you're one of the victims who the perpetrators just don't seem to get what they deserve. And
yeah.
that's one of what I saw over and over and over was these poor survivors, not as opposed to victims, that have just never really seen justice. And then
Mm,
you think, well, the law should protect them or it should compensate them. And the law is so stuck on you can only give someone this much time or this kind of a punishment. And, the scope of what people go through is so immense that you leave yourself scratching your head a little bit, honestly.
wow. And how so this is not a question. But this is just me being curious. How do your
Yeah.
professionals, the ones that you reach out and chat to, how do they find
Mhm.
dealing with that sort of a thing? I suppose there's
They're
got to be an equal
amazing
amount.
people. Yeah, amazing people. One woman has become that I didn't even know before I started out. She's just become such a fabulous friend because the conversations that you have,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I don't know how they do it.
yeah.
Honestly, I think from speaking to her, it's the little wins, the ongoing changes that you make to
Mm-hmm.
people's lives that you has to make up for all the times that you can't do what you'd want to do. But yeah, it's one that you'd have to ask them because
Yeah.
I get really overwhelmed by it. Yeah.
Wow. We'll go back to the structured part now.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the most often question you get asked about with your writing?
I get asked so many times how I can look at what we were just talking about.
Yeah,
What do I
yeah.
do to cope when when I do that? And my answer is that I take lots of breaks or I watch
Mm,
comedies but I also get a lot of satisfaction out of bringing those sorts of issues forward as well. So that's what I tell myself when it gets a bit harder. I'm going to do this. I'm going to expose this because who wants to talk about it in a normal
mm.
conversation? So, yeah, and then the feedback keeps you going as well for the next one.
Oh, fantastic. What's the best reaction you've had to your writing?
When again with probably the Lexi series, people just
Yeah.
coming up to me at events and saying thank you. Thank you for, bringing
Oh,
this to
wow.
public attention. Thank you for writing such a heroine that, can win and
Yeah.
can, rise above it all. And then I get really teary and all like, oh, like
Oh, it's gorgeous.
thankfully. Yeah, it is because it's a really vulnerable spot to come from to tell somebody that you don't know that you've been
Mm,
through something like that. So that the fact that they trust me with that and that they, feel strongly enough to thank me is probably the nicest compliments from anything that I've ever written.
how complex do you think your characters need to be?
I'd like every character in my books to be very three-dimensional. The cardboard cutout plot devices.
Yeah.
I want everybody, everybody to feel something about whatever character they're reading about
Yeah.
in my book. And because I had so many in this series that were so serious, that's why I introduced Dawny. So anyone that's read my books will know that Dawny's a bit of, the comedy relief, but she also has a story of her own, which,
Yeah.
it was lots of fun to write as well.
What's the hardest part that you found about being a writer?
Um, we have a farm, an orchid nursery, we have kids.
Yeah.
I was doing other jobs when I started writing as well. and I never have enough of it. So I know a lot of people will probably say it's the horrible reviews or it's the, you know, putting a plot together or being a pantser and all these things. And yes, they all come into it, but just physically having the time to sit down and write sometimes is just, oh, it does my head in. Like I
Yeah.
don't have time. And then I'm always doing, so much of my book towards that last couple of months,
Yeah. There's
and
a,
going without sleep.
the juggling, the plate spinning.
Yeah, all of the above. Yeah.
Who are your writing inspirations?
There's so many from so many different genres. I really loved Tess Gerritsen.
Hmm.
She's one of my all-time favorites. But now, and I know this is like, it's a strange thing to say because a lot of my favorite authors don't even write in crime, even though crime is my favorite genre. So
Yeah.
I read really widely, probably because of that, which is great. But yeah, as far as crime writers are concerned, I mean, at the moment, you know what? There's a series by Angela Marsens, and I'm really enjoying it. She's got like 21 books, and I'm just binging them everywhere I'm driving. So she's a new favorite of mine for sure.
Yeah. And what about
Yeah.
the other genres?
Oh, have you Tia Cooper?
Yep.
I was never historical. I'd never read a historical novel, and now she's one of my critique partners because I love her books so much that I always look forward to reading them. And of course, all the romantic suspense friends that I've made, and so many good Australian authors in just so many
Yeah.
different genres, and I'm really lucky because HarperCollins sends me books to read occasionally, and they'll just get something, and I'm like, wow, I haven't read anything like that before, and
Yeah.
it's so hard to pinpoint, just a couple because I don't want to then leave anybody else out. I got that question asked to me once before, and I got a few people saying, "What about me? What about me?" So,
So is that like the favorite child question?
a little bit, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah. Well, the next question was actually, are you part of a writers group or are you just part of the critique group?
Uh, I was in a writers group for quite some time, but it was always Saturdays and there was always kids' sport and,
Yeah.
everything to do. So I found that really hard to fit in, but it was really, really good to do. And I'd recommend to anyone that's writing to be part of one. But I'm also lucky that, yeah, I've have a couple of critique partners that, really help me out whenever I need it. Whenever I'm stuck, we can brainstorm and that sort of thing. So
Hmm.
it's like a little mini writers group for sure.
And oh, who is your favorite crime character?
Oh, don't make me answer that one. Lexi, can I say
You can totally say Lexi. That's perfectly fine.
it? No, again,
But what
I,
about when you were growing up? What was one of
yeah,
the crime sort of figures that kind of caught your attention?
I watched every soapy drama-ish, anything with crime in it, Blue
Yeah.
Heelers, even A Country Practice, all of those sorts
Yeah.
of things. I really liked Lisa McCune's character. I thought she was really good. But yeah, and back beyond then, I used to read everything on Mum's shelf because I was such an avid reader and I just didn't like the real kids' books. So,
Yeah.
Famous Five and all of those sorts of things. So
So
lots and lots of different ones.
did you do Trixie Belden or Nancy Drew or both?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of
Because like
both.
it's one of those things. I think it also depended where you lived in the country as to what was available. If it was Nancy Drew or Trixie Belden,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
because people tend to
And
be one or the other
one or
rather
the
than
other. Yeah, I
yeah.
think so. I do think so. Yeah, I'm trying to think which would right back. God, that was a while ago. God, I'm old. Yeah, let's just leave it. I like them both.
It's no, I'm with you 100%. Oh, do you ever surprise yourself with how dark your characters are?
Mm,
I mean, I don't think you can
yes
go
and
darker
no.
than Vaughan. Um,
No, but he's really deliciously dark, isn't he? Like you've got to have for a foil for Lexi, you've got to have someone like him.
yeah.
Um, and I was inspired to write this book in the first place by a close friend who had been through something horrible. And when she would tell me about these stories, I would see this horrible, horrible character. And he might not have been Vaughan, but he evoked the same feelings in me, especially
Hmm.
because he got away with it. So that's why I just could never make Vaughan dark enough for this book because I needed her to beat him
Mm.
and I needed it to be really satisfying.
We're not giving anything away though.
Nope.
Well, I think we've already covered this one. Who do you turn to for help with your writing?
Yeah, definitely my critique partners for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, really, really wonderful. And I mean, I'll discuss stuff with my husband as well. I'll sit down and, he'll be halfway through a movie and I'll go, you just have to pause that. I've got to work this out and we'll plot that out. And yeah, and he doesn't mind. And my daughter, she does lots and lots of writing now and she's really into the author, being an author and all that sort of stuff. So she loves it when I'll sit down with her and hash it out. I mean, she's 15. She's probably better than I will ever be. And yeah, she's got full of ideas.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
she watches horror shows in the morning with breakfast for fun. So if I want dark, yeah,
Oh my
I'll talk to Em.
goodness. Oh, wow. Has any of your main characters ever surprised you?
All the time. I
Hmm.
mean, I like to think that I'm a plotter, but
Yep.
there's a lot of pantser in there as well. And it's not sometimes until you write into a scene, and that it'll occur to you that actually that's not going to happen at all because they're telling you something very different in your
Yeah.
head, and you just run with it. So yeah, quite a lot.
What's your top writing tip?
Spot writing tip. Okay. I want to say, but I think everybody says it, and because it's so true that you just keep writing no
Yeah.
matter what, just write every day. But also, you are going to hate what you're writing by the end of it. If you're anything like me and everybody that I know, you're going to get towards the end of your first draft and go, I don't like this. What was I thinking? This is terrible. And everybody does it. Everybody
Yeah.
that I know does it. And it's not terrible. And it's going to be really good. It's just that you know it so well, there's no surprises left for you. So you've just got to remember that and have a lot of faith in it at that stage. And don't go back and change it too many times before you go on to the next draft, before you get someone else to critique it for you, because they'll often have a much different point of view on what you've written than you have. So
Yeah.
believe in it.
And following straight on from that, what's your writing routine?
My writing routine is when I can fit it in, when
Yeah.
I don't have animals giving birth or orchids needing to go to the markets or kids needing to be somewhere
Yeah.
or yeah, it's when I can fit it in. The best time is first thing in the morning before you do anything else. If you
Hmm.
can just grab that laptop and just start some work then before anything else gets into your brain, it's perfect. Doesn't often happen for me. But that's my goal is
Yeah.
to have my writing time in the mornings.
Fantastic. And it's almost, we're almost out of time. It's kind of
Oh,
flown.
it has.
I can almost see you going, oh, phew, thank goodness for that. We do have the final question for you,
Final
and that
question. Yep.
is, how would you get away with murder?
Oh, it's got to be pushing someone off a cliff. It is 99 times out of 100 the best way to get away with it because there's just no physical evidence afterwards. You could come up with a million different stories unless someone actually physically sees your hands on that person before they go over. You're safe, free and clear.
Is this something that you've thought a lot about?
Oh, yeah, every day. No. Only so I can tell my husband when he's annoying me and I, want to scare him a little bit.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Sarah, thank you so much for spending some time with us to talk about writing. And of course, if there's any justice in the world, Endgame is going to sell a lot. It's a great gift idea for anyone who's thinking. Murder Monday
Absolutely.
interviews.
Christmas.
Exactly. Murder Monday interviews are available on Sisters in Crime's YouTube channel at 6 p.m. once a month on a Monday. I've been joined by the wonderful, amazing Sarah Barrie. Endgame, where am I? Here. Endgame is out now. It's the fourth in the Lexi Winters series. Now, if you pick up any of the others, go with it because you can catch up before and after. They are amazing to delve into. One of my favorite protagonists, Sarah. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Jacq. Thank you.
Here we go.